Welcome to another episode of the .NET Show. Now this episode kicks off another set of 4 episodes. This set of episodes is going to be focused on the IT pro. Those are the guys that really take a lot of stress and energy in building out our systems for us, making sure everything runs right, and monitoring what we're doing and providing reports to upper management so they know our systems are running right. In this particular episode, we're going to talk about the WMI scripting interfaces. I've got a couple people with me that are really going to take and provide a lot of good insights to what WMI is and why scripting interfaces it provides can be useful to you and your business, even if you're not an IT pro. But before we check in with that, let's go talk with Erica and find out about the news.
Welcome to the MSDN News Update. I'm Erica Wiechers. On March 6th, Microsoft reached a patenting milestone by logging its 5,000th patent granted in the United States. Patent number 6,999,083 provides for technologies that allow people to not just play video games against each other online, but to join the game as a spectator from anywhere in the world. The patent, which covers technologies that will be featured in Xbox 360 games, brings new innovation to online gaming by allowing consumers to tune into a video game much as they would a sporting event broadcast. Since its public commitment to patent and intellectual property licensing in December 2003, Microsoft is following the industry examples of other longtime patent licensors, such as IBM, with its portfolio of over 25,000 U.S. patents, and other giants such as HP, Intel Corporation, Samsung, and Sony. On March 9th at CeBIT, Microsoft unveiled details for the Ultra Mobile Personal Computers, a new category of mobile computing devices that features small, lightweight, carry-everywhere hardware designs coupled with the full functionality of a Microsoft Windows-based PC and a choice of input options, including enhanced touchscreen capabilities. The debut of UMPCs follows Bill Gates' call in 2005 for the computer industry to develop a new category of PCs that are less expensive, lighter, and more functional. A number of OEMs will launch UMPCs in multiple markets in 2006. At the O'Reilly Emerging Technology Conference in March, Ray Ozzie, Microsoft's Chief Technical Officer, described to attendees an idea his concept development team is working on that will enable users to easily exchange structured data between websites or between websites and PC applications. Ozzie described the concept as wiring the web. Using a data transfer model similar to how the Windows clipboard allows data to be copied between applications, Live Clipboard will allow users to move structured information from one website to another or from a website to a PC application. For more information about this Wire the Web idea, you can find details on Ray Ozzie's blog at spaces.msn.com/Ray Ozzie. Also in March, Microsoft's Mix06 conference in Las Vegas drew a large crowd of designers, developers, and business decision makers for consumer-facing sites. This was Microsoft's first ever Mix conference, which will be a regular event, and included over 50 third-party speakers. At Mix, Microsoft announced the availability of the Beta 2 preview refresh for Internet Explorer version 7.0. It was also announced that the Community Technology Preview of Microsoft's Atlas technology became available on March 20th, and that this release supports a Go Live license, which means that websites can use this pre-release version of the technology on live websites. And this has been the MSDN News Update. I'm Erica Wiechers.
Welcome back. Like I said, today we're going to talk about WMI scripting. And with us, we have the experts in the company to talk about scripting and how it affects IT pros as well as people trying to manage their systems. We have Gene Ross and Craig Stemp. Glad you could join us.
Thanks.
Now, you guys run the scripting center at Microsoft, right?
Yes.
And what exactly does that entail?
The Script Center is designed to teach Windows system administrators how to automate their systems through scripting. And so running the Script Center means we write articles, we just maintain the site, keep things fresh, put new scripts on the site.
You and an entire team behind you, right?
This is the entire team.
This is the entire team. This is the Windows
Pretty
Scripting
much.
We're
Center.
really good at what we do, you know.
So if one of these lights fell from the ceiling, the scripting center would be gone. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay, so Lights
Well, any new
don't fall.
material would be gone.
Okay. Now, how important do you think WMI scripting is?
It's way more important than many people realize.
How come?
Because people ask all the time, right? How do I know that my users have, configured their desktop resolution to be this? I told them it's got to be 1024 768, or this particular app's not going to work. Right? I told them that they're running out of space on drive D and to get rid of some stuff. How do I know that I did that? And a lot of people, the way they do that is they walk around to each computer and they check the resolution, they check the drive space, they check to see how much memory's in there, what programs have they installed, did they install a game when I told them not to. You can do all of that stuff sitting.
So you mean the IT guys can stop me from installing games?
Yes, they can. Not
Okay.
the good ones,
Okay.
of course. I mean, but the evil IT guys will do that. Yes.
Okay.
When we see the demo, you'll see I have games on my computer, but that's another story. The idea, though, is, right, I can sit as a sysadmin, right? I got enough to do anyway without walking around the building checking stuff. Is this server still up? Do I got enough memory in this machine? I can sit at my computer, and with a script that, we'll show you, I can write in Notepad literally in a matter of minutes. I can go out and I can hit all my remote machines and get that kind of information. And, I mean, that's absolutely invaluable to a sysadmin. In fact, I can write a script and schedule it to run at midnight, and I come in the morning and I've got a report of whatever I needed. And whatever I needed is pretty much everything I can do with a computer, because that's what WMI does. WMI is, I'm doing all the talking, but that's all right. You had nothing to say anyway.
No, it's fine.
You think about stuff that's on a computer. We talked about this earlier, right? Computers have services, right? They have processes that run. They have software that's installed. They have monitors. They have hard disks. They have memory. All of those things have a WMI class, a corresponding WMI class, which you can think of it almost like a virtual representation of whatever's on that machine. And so if I want some information about that computer, I can just ask WMI, and WMI will go out and get that information and come back and tell me. And, for a sysadmin, knowledge is power. The most important thing you can do is know what's going on in your system. And this makes it real easy to do that.
So WMI is kind of like a gopher to a certain extent. Then, go for this and go for that. And the script is the sysadmin simply telling the gopher, oh, I need this now and I need this now. He goes and does that stuff, comes back the information, and then you can just say, here's the report.
Sure. And as things have developed, so originally the first version of WMI was pure gopher, right? You ask the gopher to go get some stuff and he'd get it for you, but that was it. The gopher's done at this point. Whereas now WMI is developing into not just a read-only technology, but a read-write technology. So now you got a smart gopher, and you can tell him to do things like, look, go check and see if that service is running. If it's not, would you please start it for me? Go check and see if that file's there. If it's not, copy it. So although it's primarily a read-only technology, there's a lot of configuration and a lot of stuff you can do that actually does something. Yeah.
So one thing we should back up just to make sure the audience understands. What exactly does WMI stand for? We've been saying WMI all this time, and
I always hate to do that because then it sounds like a typical Microsoft thing, right? The Windows Management Instrumentation is what it stands for. Instrumentation is kind of a technical term, and for really it's more an infrastructure would be a better, right? It's the roads that we can travel on to get somewhere, and that's probably a better term. But
so, who are the people that WMI is really targeted at?
Any Windows system administrator.
So, if you're an administrator of any system, large or small, one system, dozens of systems, hundreds of systems.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It actually, and it helps because it helps under all those circumstances because you could go out and spend $100,000 on some software that might help you to do some of these things, or you can sit down and use WMI to write some scripts to do it. And with, every size organization is constantly cutting back and looking at a way to save money and save time, and this is a really good way to do it.
I think the deal is, right, if I back up and clear, I got one computer, I back up and clear my event logs once a year. Do I need WMI? Yeah, I can use WMI, but just as easy, just as fast to use the GUI, right? But let's say I got 100 servers, and I try to do this on a weekly basis.
You're spending all your time physically doing a backup and physically doing
And so
it as well.
if there's any task, regardless of the size of your organization, if there's a task that you find yourself doing over and over and over again, particularly if you do it on multiple machines, right, you're a perfect candidate for scripting at that point.
Now, does scripting also assist you in just the initial setup of machines? I know a lot of organizations, when they have new hires coming on, the biggest problem they have is just getting the standard setup going on the systems.
Yeah, it can, and in Vista, when Vista comes out, it will be even better. But I do know what a lot of places do is they have a standard image, right? So they use something like Ghost or one of these programs that is really kind of bare bones. And what happens is they install that, so they get the OS and applications on there. And then depending on what type of person you are, right? You're the graphic artist or you're an accountant or whatever, they have a script that will then go out and configure certain settings based on your needs. So yes, it's very important in that kind of stuff. And what it's especially useful at too then is after you've done the deployment, right? It can go back and double check and make sure, you know, because you never know, right? Did that actually work? Did I actually give them the rights to this folder? You know, the script can go out and verify all that stuff for you.
Now, so in dealing with the script center and trying to train people in how to use WMI scripting and stuff like that, what do you see as the biggest hurdle that people are facing?
The biggest hurdle is I think they're a little bit intimidated. It looks like programming. It's something a developer should be doing and not a system administrator.
What's wrong with programming?
Nothing's wrong with
You're one in a
programming.
million, Robert. I mean, you know, you're a genius. Most people aren't in your class.
So people they're afraid of something that looks like programming.
Right, or just a little bit thinking, you know, I don't understand that. That's not what I do.
And
And-
is WMI scripting like programming?
Yes, it is a little bit like programming.
So they should be afraid.
No,
Why not?
no, because it's not really that difficult. It's, yeah, that's the whole point of what we do is to try to explain to people this isn't a scary thing. If you actually just break it down, see what's really happening, and, you know, and there's a lot of scripts already out there. You can take existing scripts and say, boy, this is almost what I want it to do. And if you could just learn a little bit to change it a little bit, and it'll be exactly what you're looking for.
You just find out where it has that file name at it, and you wanted a different file instead, and you just change the name of the file name where it's copying, and now it's copying this file rather than that file, or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we'll do some of that in the demo. Just, I know you don't believe Jean, but she's telling the truth in this. It really is that easy. It
You're
really
the only
is.
one who never believes me.
Well, yeah.
I know, you do. Have to separate you? So let's go back to the scripting center itself. Who are the people that come to the scripting center? Are these people that are wanting to get a first-time experience with WMI scripting, or are these people that are accomplished with WMI scripting and they just need to brush up? Or
It's really a wide variety. So we get guys from, you know, big, huge multinational companies who are.
Sorry.
Actually, unfortunately,
People.
sadly, most of them are guys, which is one of our goals is to try to get more females involved in this stuff. But anyway, people tend to come from very large multinational companies, people who are, I said people, who are really adept, and they're just trying to pick up that one little piece that they don't know. Then we get the beginners who are rank beginners. They've heard something about it, sounds interesting. Somebody they know says that it's kind of good to do this. We get guys who are just at home. They're just home users, but you can script things like Windows Media Player, for example. You can write a script to organize your media files. You can create playlists. You know, you can do all sorts of cool stuff with that. You can organize your digital photos. So we'll get, you know, just home users. So it sounds stupid, you know, to say, right, we embrace the world and we get people from all walks of life, but that really is true. We really do get that.
I mean, like, do you think people like, you know, your mom has a use for WMI scripting?
Possibly, right? Right. My mom would be one of those who would go, "Oh, that's a computer thing. That's, you know." But yeah, we went to Europe this summer. Nobody has a film camera, and you're right, everybody has a digital camera. She's just got all the pictures, you know, the way the digital camera does, which just throws them all into a big folder. It would be nice for her, right? These, you know, put keywords on these things, be able to search them, be able to organize them. You know, you don't necessarily need to use a script for that. But say she takes 5 more trips to Europe. and there's birthdays and Christmases, and you build up a big collection of digital photos, then she might have use for it. Sure.
And the extensiveness of WMI scripting appears to be fairly robust, which in my mind raises the question of, okay, so if I can write a WMI script that goes against the system and the files and the settings and Excel and Word and the photo apps, how does WMI get into the bowels of applications in order to do some of this stuff for me?
Okay, so and a lot of that stuff, it's not WMI itself. In some cases, it is. Some cases, right, we're just, Excel, for example, Excel is just a COM object, right? A lot of its functionality is exposed to a scripting language. Now, in the case of WMI, what WMI does is, so I don't need WMI to get that same information, right? There are Windows APIs that exist for everything, right? If I want to get information about a service, that's fine. I'll just use the whatever service API. Okay. The problem with that is that there's a million APIs, and learning one doesn't necessarily tell you how to use another one. APIs differ, right? And so I may learn the service API, and now I need to get process information. Well, now I got to learn the process API. And sometimes that's easy, sometimes it's not so easy. The value that WMI brings is, WMI knows it's hard for me to learn those APIs, but WMI understands those APIs. So it goes out. Well, I say, WMI, go give me some information. Actually, what it's doing is it's using the Windows APIs. And it's bringing it back, though, in a format that I can use. And but as I keep saying, as we see in the demo, right? As we'll see in the demo, once I learn how to write one WMI script, magically I've suddenly learned how to write literally thousands of WMI scripts, because it follows a very, very predictable format and just a real, almost like a template that you can just change this thing, bang, you got a brand new script that does something new. And that's how WMI gets to this stuff. It's not magic. It's using the Windows APIs. It's just hiding them from me. So the magic occurs for me. And that's what it's doing.
So the idea is just making it simple and easy for people to take an interface on that scary word, programmatic level.
Sure, it's no different, right? When I want to turn on my TV, I just hit the on button. Whereas if I had to connect the wires, to make the TV go on, that would be really hard. WMI is connecting the wires for me.
So some of the articles and webcasts and stuff like that you do on the Scripting Center, what are some of the focus points you try to deal with?
We deal with a little bit of everything. We have some regular articles. We have a daily question and answer article where we use actual questions submitted by our customers. And then, and based on what we hear from people, we'll write more in-depth articles on different things.
And what are some of the things that people are repeatedly coming at you with questions on? I suppose that'd be the things that are causing them the most difficulties and concerns.
Oh, it's kind of across the board. It's most parts of Windows. We have a lot of beginners showing up, a lot of new people, so we have a whole series on beginners. Active Directory is always popular. A lot of people are interested in scripting Active Directory.
And we get again, we kind of run the gamut. So on the one hand, we'll get these big, huge Active Directory questions, right? On the other hand, people have some, there's some application they use in their company that saves a bunch of files to a particular folder. And what they need to do is 3 times a day empty that folder and copy those files to some other location. And so you get kind of the huge task, but then you get what sounds like a simple task, but they don't know how to do it, and it's obviously very important to them.
And so do you answer all these questions yourselves?
No, I wish that we did. The difficulty we have is we get upwards of 100 emails a day. So we do 2 things. We answer a specific question every single day, and then we kind of look for patterns, right? A lot of people have been asking about X. Maybe we should do something about X. Unfortunately, right, it's just the 2 of us. She's not that good, so it's hard for us to do all of these things.
She's not that good, you're not that bright, so between the 2 of you, it's kind of...
How this thing
well,
comes
see,
running.
when people, when we tell people, hey, you don't have to be smart to be scripting, right? We are,
we're great examples of this.
But you're actually a programmer, though.
I used to be. in a former life.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yes.
and you're not even a
I
programmer.
coach baseball. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I do.
So just the fact that we have both a programmer and a non-programmer that are basically the core of the scripting center and providing all these answers is kind of a good illustration of the fact that it is a broad range of people. I
Sure,
mean,
you know, and if I was a programmer, I would probably use scripts all the time simply because, right, I'm going to test my new application. I need to make sure that this machine over there has enough hard disk space, right? I need to make sure it's got enough memory, and it's got to have this kind of a graphics card, right? It's really easy to write a script, you know, like I said, in 2 minutes to run out and get that kind of information for me. So our focus is sysadmin mainly because we get paid by the group at Microsoft that focuses on, you know, IT pros. But, you know, like we said, developers can benefit from this stuff too. It's much easier to fire up Notepad and take 2 minutes and write a WMI script than to write a full-blown executable file to do some simple little task.
now, do you guys personally use WMI scripting on your own machines to take care of different duties?
Greg does.
On occasion, it's
Yes,
one of those,
actually,
you know,
me too.
it's a scary thing, right? You work at Microsoft and you're divorced from the real world. But we have times that pop up. So for example, we just had this situation pop up where they wanted us to do an RSS feed on TechNet, which was fine, except they have some automated program that does it. I hope Graham's not listening to this, right? It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I mean, you'd get like 8 copies of one article that was posted. And so we wrote a script that we just keep track of the things that we publish, and we use a script to generate that XML file automatically. We do that kind of stuff quite a bit. So it may not be WMI scripting in that, you know, I have one computer, so it's not too hard for me to know the resolution on the computer. But we do use this, you know, the same kind of techniques quite a bit for managing our site and stuff like that. So we practice what we preach to a certain extent.
And from a size of company standpoint, do you see WMI scripting for the larger companies with large teams of IT pros and stuff like that, or more for the smaller companies where you're more resource constrained?
You know, I can make a case either way. Right? On the one hand, you could say, man, if it's just you and you're in charge of all these computers all by yourself, scripting is very useful. But on the other hand, right, the bigger the company, you never get that many admins that you have too many admins, right? And bigger companies tend to be spread out farther, so you've got people over here in remote locations. They also tend to have more things that they do. Small companies are going to do one thing. A bigger company's got a million things to worry about. The scripting becomes really handy there. In particular, this isn't WMI scripting, but ADSI, Active Directory Service Interfaces, right? When you've got multiple domains and forests and you're trying to coordinate all that stuff, scripting is a much better way of doing it. And you know, some of that's changing, right? Our GUI tools are getting better, but right, if you're running, particularly if you're running Windows 2000, the GUI tools are not great for managing enterprise type settings where you got multiple machines in multiple locations. Scripting is really about the only way to do it.
Now, have the features of WMI scripting changed over the years, and the capabilities and the flexibility, I suppose?
WMI first came out with NT4 Service Pack 3 or something crazy like that, and kind of the WMI is divided in what they call namespaces, which we won't worry too much about. But in the core namespace, it had something like 242 classes. So, you know, if you want to look at it that way, there were 242 things you could do with WMI. So the latest build of Vista has over 900 just in that one namespace. Plus, it has additional namespaces that didn't exist previously. So each version of WMI gets better and better and more powerful. And in addition to that, a number of products, Microsoft products in particular, are now using WMI. So SMS makes extensive use of WMI. MOM uses WMI. The major applications, so Exchange has a WMI provider, Active Directory has a WMI provider. You typically don't use it, but it's there. IIS has a really nice WMI provider. So yeah.
What exactly is a WMI provider?
A provider just means, you know, like I said, what WMI's job is to take my little script code, translate it into an API, get the information back, and then translate it back to me. And so the provider is the little piece of software that knows how to talk to Exchange, for example. It knows how to convert my simple VB script codes into something that Exchange can understand.
So it's like the COM interfaces, putting into the programming aspect of things?
Yeah, I think of it as like the translator, right? You know, I say something to her, she says it to you in Spanish, you say back, you know, that sort of thing.
Do you speak Spanish?
No.
Okay.
That's why we
So-
don't
so
use
in that
her as a
case, we don't have a-
translator, yeah.
Where do you see the future of WMI going?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I don't know. You're on a roll. They're going to continue to build on it. I'm sure they are. It's going to, I mean, like Greg just mentioned, there's more coming in Vista.
What are some of the cool things coming up for Vista? I mean, since by the time this airs, Vista will be just right around the corner, and people should be starting to think about Vista already.
Right. Task Scheduler is a big one. There's a lot of added functionality for scheduling tasks. I don't know. What are some of the other ones?
DFS has some of these things we haven't investigated, I'll be honest with you. DFS is a huge namespace all its own.
DFS is
Distributed Files System. So that's that thing that never works, but I understand that they've fixed it, where the idea is, right, I don't map a drive here. I just, you know, I say I want to get something off this DFS share, and if they need to move that share to another computer, it doesn't bother me, right? Because I just
You can still get to the
follow
data
the
no
link.
matter where it's at.
Exactly. Or if for some reason this machine is being hit by 100 users and it's killing it, there's a backup copy over here, and I'll automatically be routed to that. I'm saying this right. I'm probably totally wrong about that, but that's all right.
See, that's it. He can make these things
Yeah,
up.
I'm good at that. So there are some big things. There are also some little things, right? In the sense that they're not, you know, the DFS namespace is huge, right? But now you can set security descriptors using WMI. That's been semi-possible in the past, but it was A, hard, and B, limited. So you could do it on files and folders. That was it. So in Vista, you'll now be able to check and set security, not only on files and folders, but on the registry, on printers, on services, on all sorts of things like that.
And why would I want to do that in the script?
Again, because you've got all these remote machines, right? And I need to do that because we just hired Jean on, and she needs access to this, 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 and this, right? It's easy for me to do. If I have a script that does it, all I basically got to do is go in and type her name in, you know, to where it says enter user name, right? And run the script, and let it go worry about that. Rather than having to right-click, choose security, choose the security tab, you know, do that for all these different shares. The other thing it's really good for is so I can audit these things routinely. Because I know, right, I've got a list here that says only these people should have access to these things. Now, how do I know that some other admin or one of these people hasn't gone in, you know, Jean really should have access to this, so I'm just going to give it to her. This way I can do this, right? With a script, I can just run that. Like I said, I can run it at night. Come in the morning, and here's my, you know, security audit report, and I can look at that, and I can see whether the right people have access to that kind of stuff. So it's really nice. That's what it's really nice for, is that kind of stuff. That run it when you go home, and then come in the morning, and it'll tell you if there's anything wrong. And then there's other stuff, right? There's a Games Explorer in Vista, which I'm not 100% sure what all that does. It keeps track of what games you have installed and ratings, like for parents and stuff. But that's got a WMI provider.
And I can see there be, so like the games provider specifically on Vista is a parental controls model.
Yes.
So it's using various rating systems. And so parents or administrators of a system can take and make sure they're controlling exactly what games can and can't be used based on either
Exactly.
the MPG ratings or the various certain
Yes.
aspects associated.
And I mean, on the one hand, it sounds silly, but on the other hand, it's not unusual now for a family to have 4 computers and their own little network, right? So if Dad wants to sit down in the rec room and run this little script and make sure that everything is fine, he can do that, right? And there's also a parental controls WMI provider for limiting what, you know, the kids can do and can't do.
Of course, now in most families, wouldn't the person who you'd put as the most knowledgeable administrator of the system be the kids?
Well, that's true. Not in my family. My son, I better not say that, right? He may watch this.
So with WMI, where do you think people need to spend the most time focusing their efforts in order to get past some of the problems they have, some of the reluctance to the programming aspect of it? How do they work past those problems, do you think?
Best way is just to start playing with it. You know, start with some existing scripts. Read some things about it and just see what an existing script does and say, okay, now how would I make it do this? And just take it a step farther and just start learning how to modify those, and then that will start teaching you how to create your own.
And do you think, is the scripting center the best or only place for them to go now to get information about this sort of stuff?
Well, of course, it's the best place.
They can read your articles and see your webcasts and stuff like that. Are there other resources available for people if they want to understand WMI scripting better?
There's books available. I know MS Press has published a number of books on it.
It is, 5 years ago, the answer would have been good luck, right? Now there are more things out there. Don't go to Google and type in WMI because you'll get way too many hits.
Go to MSN search instead anyway, right?
Yeah, and then then you probably won't get any hits, but I better not say that, right? I'm just joking. Yeah, you know, whereas 5 years ago, if you'd gone to
Okay,
search
you've worked here
engine,
for 5 years now? Well,
It's over.
so I got my 5-year clock.
Remember we said
so-
about shutting down the script center?
But yeah, there's no lack of resources, right? We have a utility, and this has been the thing that we found helps people the most. It's called the Scriptomatic. And what
Scriptomatic, that sounds
Scriptomatic.
technical.
It's very technical. We had a guy on our team who he was really knowledgeable. He knew everything about scripting. He used to always say, you know, I don't understand why we can't just take this information and run it through the Scriptomatic and a script would come out. And he was just being, he's a wild and crazy guy, right? And one day I got to think, you know, we could actually do that. And the reason is because WMI is, like I said, so predictable and so kind of template based. And so we wrote a little utility, and we wrote it as an HTA, which, if you're familiar with HTAs, that's an HTML application. It's just a web page, right, with some VB script in it. But it'll write WMI scripts for you, and we'll demonstrate that too. You just tell it what I want to do. So you pick a class, Win32 process, because I want information about processes, and bang, just that quickly, there's a script. And that's really good because you can get past kind of the tedious part of having to write this code, and you can mess around with it and see what it works. And then you can write the script and then start playing around with that. And
It makes it really painless then, in other words. So there's no reason why people should not get involved in WMI scripting.
It's really a good thing, right? And it's one of those things, it's still kind of new enough. It's been around for a while, but it's only been embraced recently that it makes you kind of cool. It doesn't make you really cool, obviously, but you know, what we found out from people who work at companies, those who can script and those who can't, those who can script are just, you know, when it comes bonus time or review time, you know, we get 10% out of everything, but that's, you know, that's all right.
Well, I mean,
Wait a minute, you get 10%?
No, I don't know where that came from. That was.
well, I think we did a good job of covering what WMI scripting is and where people can get more information about it and why they should get more information about it. Sounds to me like it's time for demos.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So after this short break, we'll come back. We'll take a look at some actual demonstrations of WMI scripting, including the Scriptomatic, to find out how you can just click one button and pops a script. They can do almost everything you want it to do. Almost. So stay tuned. Welcome back. Now we're going to actually dive in and take a look at what WMI scripting looks like. And we have Gene and Greg joining us again, although they have switched seats. Hopefully this is something that's more comfortable for you, huh?
It's great for me.
Okay. How about you, Genius?
Yeah,
I'm
we don't
fine.
care. Yeah.
You're fine. Okay. Now, since you guys are in charge of the scripting center, I thought it'd be a good idea to actually take a look at the scripting center and introduce it to any of our viewers out there that haven't seen it or haven't seen it enough to see exactly the hard work that you two put into this.
Sure. This is the Script Center right here. URL up here, basically www.microsoft.com, TechNet, Script Center, one word Script Center. That'll get you here. This is, you know, like it says, it's kind of your one-stop shopping place for scripting. We have detailed technical information, so if you want to really get into the heart and soul of scripting, it's there. We have some kind of small little things, so the Hey Scripting Guy column, for example.
Hey,
this
hey,
is
wait, hey, scripting guy,
Yes, Hey Scripting Guy.
not hey, scripting person.
The minute persons other than myself write one of these columns, then I'll consider changing the name. But at this point in time, it's Hey
Don't
Scripting
believe him.
Guy.
He's not changing it for anything.
This is our daily column that we talked about earlier, where customers ask a question, we answer it, give them some code. There's always code. So if you are
Since it's
interested in
scripting guy,
scripting,
you answered that.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Because it's this we business.
that's the royal we,
Okay,
right?
okay,
You know. This is also if you're a newcomer to scripting, the scripting your first steps. It's good, even though Gene wrote it. It's good. It's a really good.
It basically explains how to use the script center, what to do with the scripts. A lot of people will come to the script center, they'll see a script and say, hey, that's what I want. What do I do? And so this article actually explains how you make these things run and the basics of getting around and how to get started.
So in other words, the best place to get started is the last link in that section.
Yes.
Okay, good.
But since I'm in charge, we put my stuff first. I mean, come on.
We
So
like to
what
let
is
them
what is
think
the
he's in
question
charge.
this time?
You know, that's an interesting question. I tend to write these things like 3 or 4 days in advance. I can't keep track of them. It happens to be a scriptomatic one. So we'll show you the scriptomatic later. But as I mentioned earlier, the scriptomatic it's an HTA. It's just a text file that you can open up in Notepad and modify. And so somebody actually asked a question: how could I modify it and make it do it something a little bit different than what it normally does?
So and since it's an HTA and they're downloading it, they can make modifications.
It's theirs,
as well.
right? Yeah.
Well, that's getting a little more programming, I expect, than a WMI script is.
Parts of it, perhaps, right? But it's
Because now in order to curly braces, now they're the angle braces
Yeah.
of HTML and
Yeah.
stuff they got to worry about.
the only advantage there is that a lot of people have at least some knowledge of HTML. Right, so they've put the little B tag around something and made a boldface.
Yeah.
So that's not quite as bad. But we'll show you that. So then we do other stuff too. We have some fun things. So every week, for example, we have a puzzle where get to it here. We give people a script that doesn't work, and basically, since we don't give them any prize, it's just a dare, right? We dare you to try to figure out what's wrong with this script and how can you fix it. And these tend to be aimed at not the most beginnerish of beginners, but they're things that the average scripter has a chance of solving. And then I think the nice thing that we do is when we give people the answer, we don't just say, well, the answer was you should have put an X here. But we try to explain why they should have put an X here. How should they have known to do that? If this ever pops up again, what kind of things should they look for? What kind of things should they do? That's really, we consider ourselves an educational, institute or whatever, rather than just a bunch of technical writers giving you technical information.
So in the case of this particular script, what's wrong with this script?
This particular script, this is actually this is one that we get asked this all the time. It's doing some database stuff, and it's pulling up some records. In this case, it's actually using a text file rather than an actual database, but the same idea. And they think that they're going to echo back all the information that's in that database. Instead, what happens is they keep echoing the same thing over and over and over and over again. I say, well, I guess we're not live, so I can give away the answer. That's okay. I don't, well, basically, what happens is people forget that when you do a for each loop, we'll show you one of those later. the script is real smart. It does the first thing, and then it knows to automatically go on to the second thing, and then to automatically go on to the third thing. The database stuff is not quite as smart. You have to specifically tell it, go to the next record. Otherwise, it'll just keep looping around and looping around, looping around.
So another that do until loop, he's not doing the next.
He's
So
doing until he reaches the end, the EOF, the end of the record set, but he's never going to reach the end of the record set
because he's staying on record.
because he's staying on record 1. Right.
So what should he do there in order to take and go to the next record?
What he needs to do is right here, right before the loop, he just basically needs to say, obj record set dot move next. Go to the next record.
And then that fixes
Problem solved. Yeah,
Nice and
just that easy.
okay.
Yeah.
So now we've gotten our first little bit of WMI scripting.
Yeah, that's
you go.
kind of a freebie. It wasn't even
Yeah.
part of the demo.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys out there are lucky today. Yeah. Okay. So why don't we go ahead and look at some of the code then, and I'm going to do something. It's actually a little dangerous, probably, but rather than use one of these canned ones, we're going to start off. I'm going to write a script right from scratch, mainly because I wanted you to see, well, when we say you can write these things literally in a matter of minutes, that's not, that's not just hype, right? It really is true. And so the reason it's dangerous, though, is because I would never do this myself, in the sense that I would never start with a blank piece of paper and write a WMI script. And the reason is, as hopefully it'll become clear, so much of WMI, like we said, is a template. It's boilerplate. So if I needed to write a new WMI script, I would start with an existing one. I would just open that up and modify it. And so, if people out there are thinking, man, they call themselves the scripting guys, they don't even know how to write scripts. In a certain sense, right, that's almost true, because I don't have to memorize all this stuff. As
Gene
Gene
memorizes
said,
it.
Gene's in a class by herself, though, right? So you see, first of all, right, this is just a text file, right? I just gave it a .vbs file extension, and I opened it up in Notepad. There are script editors out there. You can buy them. You can spend money for them.
Notepad's free.
Notepad is free, and I like Notepad. I don't have anything against Notepad. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to start off. I'm going to start off by typing incorrectly. I knew that was going to happen. We're creating a variable here called stir computer, and we're setting the value to a dot. The reason we're doing that is in the world of WMI, the dot means local computer. So we're going to use this variable to tell WMI which computer we want to work on. Now this is actually optional. If you don't specify a computer, WMI will automatically default to the local computer. But have a reason for doing it this way, right? I'm not going to tell you, but I'm trying to help you out here, right? It has some suspense, right? The viewers are on the edge of their seats. Oh yeah. Your show could use a little of that. Okay, so what we're going to do then is we're going to connect to the WMI service. Man, I knew this would happen. And this will take a second. So this WinMG MTS colon.
Object.
Did I really? Thanks a lot, Gene. Basically, what we're doing is the skid object. WMI is a COM object, and it's always running. And this is kind of interesting thing about WMI. It's always running even when it's not running. So it's a service.
It's always running when it's not. It's a Zen sort of thing going on there.
Yeah, it is, right? WMI is much deeper than people give it credit for. But the deal is there, it's a service, so you think, well, shoot, if somebody stops my WMI service, then I'm dead, right? None of my scripts will work. But the cool thing about WMI is if the service is stopped, it just automatically restarts itself. So the minute you run a script or the minute you do something with SMS or another application that needs WMI, it just restarts itself. So that's kind of cool. And you can see what we're doing here. See if, so basically, we're just connecting to the WMI service on the local computer. So that's where we used our variable there. And then this root simv2 namespace. We talked a little bit about namespaces earlier. That's roughly equivalent to a folder in the file system. So typically on the file system you have folders, and maybe you put all your budget information in one folder, and you put all your pictures in another folder. So things that belong together go in folders. Same thing here in general. So WMI classes that kind of belong together go in the same namespace. And the root simv2 namespace is just kind of the default namespace where most operating system stuff goes. Okay, so after we connect to the WMI service, then we're going to do this. We're going to use something called the exec query method. I can type that in, I'll be shocked. And what this is going to do is we're going to ask WMI for some information, and the exec query method is the typical way of doing that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say select star from Win32 process. And you know,
so basically using SQL formatting.
you're using something very much like SQL. It's actually WQL, WMI query language, which is a subset of SQL. Now it doesn't have all the capabilities of SQL, but it has some of them, and we'll show you a few more later on. But yeah, so this is typically the way you're going to get information from WMI, is using a query like this. And again, right, if you have any familiarity with SQL type stuff, select star from means just select everything from, and then in SQL, normally right here, you'd put the name of a database table or something, where here we're putting the name of a WMI class. Okay, Win32_process happens to be the class that can tell us all about the processes that are running on the computer. Okay, so that's going to bring us back a collection. And so typically the way you walk through all the items in a collection is by setting up a for each loop. And that's all we're doing here. And then all we're going to do for now is just echo is WMI's thing for display the information, right? We're just going to echo back the name of the object. And there are other things we could echo back as well, but so, see, I thought this all out, right? I have a reason why we're only going to do name for right now, and it'll just blow people away, of course. Okay. All right, so we're going to save this and see what happens here. Now, to run the script, what I'm doing in here is I started out by typing in C script. This is also optional. So there are two script hosts in scripting. And for our purposes for today, C script is what you use when you want to do things from the command prompt and you want your output displayed in a command window. W script is if you want to get message boxes. Okay. In this case, since we have 40 or so processes running, we don't want to have to answer 40 message boxes. Right. So we're using C script. And I could actually configure my machine so that it would use C script by default, and then I could just type x.vbs. But I do things my way. So I'm gonna type C script, and you can't stop me, right? And so, whoops, here we go. Got to hit enter. There we go. So these are all the processes that are running on the computer right now. Okay. And I think the interesting thing, well, that's interesting, first of all, that I can get that information, but also is, right, I mean, this runs pretty dang fast. WMI in particular has a reputation for being really, really slow. And I don't know. I'm getting older, maybe things just seem fast to me, but that seems pretty fast. That seems reasonably good to me. Okay, so there's that. Let's wipe this out. Let's go back to our script now. And we talked, or I talked, right, about how, you know, this is a template. You can just, you know, use the same basic code and make very minor modifications, and you can write hundreds of scripts. Now we'll see if I was right about that, right? So we got a script now that can get us information about the processes running on the computer. Okay, well, that's great. But Jean over here, she wants information about services. So really, all we got to do is come in here and say, okay, give us information about Win32_service, which happens to be the class that can tell us about services, right? And again, we're sticking just with the name for now. And the reason we did that is because most things have a name. And so we don't have to change anything else. We'll talk about changing different property values in a moment. But now if we save this, right, theoretically, we come in here, just type this.
The up arrow now.
I know I could, but there we go. And so now these are the services that are running on this machine, okay, right? Come in here, right, I want to do, get the name of the BIOS that's on this machine. Okay, that's fine. Change it to Win32_BIOS. You wanted me to do that, didn't you? There we go. Okay, there we go. That's it, right? There are hundreds and hundreds of WMI classes. We could do this all day long, although I'm guessing you don't want us to. So we're not going to do this all day long. Okay.
Get a little repetitive after a while, I think.
A tiny bit, perhaps, yeah.
So, so at the core of this is understanding the classes that you can take and be calling into. So like
yes.
the Win32_BIOS, understanding what the different opportunities are, what the different options are.
Yes.
Is probably one of the key things to understand.
It is
when you're
the key
scripting.
thing. Yeah. And we talked earlier about the scriptomatic. So I'll take a minute to show you this, right? What the scriptomatic does is, you click on this little drop down, and here's all of the classes that are available to you.
So there's that 132_BIOS that we just got through
Yeah,
using.
there it is right there, right? If I pick that, there you go. I now have a script that will run and retrieve all of the properties of this class, right? So here's the build number, the description, install date, all that kind of stuff. And if I click the little run button up here, it'll actually run and bring back that information for me. Okay.
So whereas before you were just bringing back the name
All I was
because
getting was the name.
you were having to do the typing and you didn't want to have to type all the stuff to
Yes.
get all those things out of it. Plus, you maybe didn't memorize what all the different
I
possible
guarantee you I did
properties
not
were.
memorize it. Yes.
Where the scriptomatic can interrogate that object and say, okay, I know what all your things are, I know what the type are.
Exactly.
Let's write the script.
And
that
that's
does
what's
it.
cool about WMI is WMI is more than happy to tell you all about itself. You just got to ask, right? And so we're actually using WMI to get information about all the WMI classes and stuff. And as we said earlier, right, I can right click on this thing and choose View Source. And, it's just some HTML. So sub window on load if you've done any HTML in web programming.
Okay, now we're into programming.
Yeah. I had to throw you a bone at some point, right? You can scroll down here, for example, and I know it's somewhere in here. You'll see, I don't know. I was looking for here it is. Stir computer equals dot, right? Here's the same kind of code we were just using a second ago. Scriptomatic, it's kind of a cool little tool, but I'm ruining its, the mystique of the scripting guys by telling people there's nothing to it, right? There's absolutely nothing to it. They don't have to know that, but anyway, so this is a good way of, what is there in WMI, right? Codec file, right? What the heck is that? Well, I pick that and run it, and I'll get some information back, and maybe this is useful to me, maybe it's not. The nice thing is, right, there's no investment here, right? You can see how quickly this works. I can mess around all day if I want to and really explore WMI. And then, of course, right, we've got WMI-related stuff in the Script Center. On MSDN, the WMI SDK has information. Not too hard to find stuff.
And I see you're supporting Visual Basic, Perl, Python, and there's a fourth one there, and JavaScript.
Yes. So if you're just got to be a pro guy, we really don't care personally. We chose VBScript because it was easiest for beginners, right? Beyond that, I don't care what you use. The important thing is that you use WMI. WMI is the ticket because that's the one that gets you the information about processes, right? A scripting language, truthfully, depending on how you want to look at it, they're all kind of lame in a way, right? VBScript can tell you the absolute value of a number and the arctangent of an angle. It has no idea what a process is. It has no idea what a service is, right? But that doesn't matter because WMI knows that stuff.
Also has no idea what a semicolon in the line is either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we like VBScript, but it can be a little slow at times. But so now we've got now we got a Perl script. Now we got a Python script, right? There are people who have taken this scriptomatic and changed it so that it would write .NET code, so that it will write Kickstart code. It's cool, and that's what it's there for, right? This is not some super proprietary deal, right? Do whatever you want with it. Okay, let's come back to our original script. I'll put process back on here just for the heck of it, just because I have everything built up around processes. So, and what we're going to do now is, so up here, right, we said what computer do you want to connect to, and we said we want to connect to the local computer. Now we're going to try to connect to the machine that's sitting in my office right now. And all we have to do here is just replace the value of our variable with the name of that remote machine. We could use the name, we could use the IP address, whatever, okay? And with one or two really kind of oddball exceptions, anything I can do locally with WMI, I can do remotely, okay? I just have to be a local admin on the remote machine. So hackers who are listening to this broadcast, right, you can log off now because you can't just go out and hit any machine you want with WMI and do anything you want. You got to be a local admin.
So I couldn't put the name of my computer in there and have you access my computer and do stuff.
It would access denied.
Yep.
Unless you would make me a local admin. But
I don't think so. I might make Gene an admin, but not you.
Yeah, well, It's funny how much I hear that, right? So we're going to try this now and see if we can connect to Gizmonic. There we go, right? So that machine is thousands of miles away in my palatial office, and I can do anything I want to it sitting right here. We're going to try something really scary now, but let's do this. Let's make it a little array here, because this is where
So you just commented out that
I just
line.
commented out that line, right? If I could spell the word array, I don't want to spell the word array anyway. Okay, here we go. I'm really nervous, big TV stars like you and everything here, so.
I'm not a TV star, I'm a web star.
Well,
There's a difference.
Yeah, okay. Well, in that case, a web star, the heck is a web star, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to set up a little array, and we're going to try to get information from both of these machines. And we'll see how this works. So basically all I've done up here is I've created an array and I've put the names of my two machines, dot, the local machine, and the remote machine that we have. We could put 100 computer names up there. Right? We could read computer names in from a text file. We could connect to Active Directory and get all the computers that are in an OU. Or we could do a search of Active Directory and say, show me all the computers that are running Windows XP Service Pack 2. And then I want to do this little thing on there. So for each computer in the array, oops, come down here, and put a couple W's, put a couple blank lines here so that we can see where the two computers are separated, and a little next. So what we now we have two for each loops. First for each loop runs through my list of computers up here, and then the second one will echo back all the processes on each of those machines. This is one of those things which I'll always be amazed when it works, but it usually works, right? Okay, so here we go, right? There's a little break we put in between, right? So here are the processes that were running on this local machine. Here are the processes that are running on the remote machine. You see again how fast that is, right? So even if I've got 100 machines and I need to do some sort of inventory type thing on all 100 of them, it's not that hard.
Of course, now I probably would have taken and written the name of the computer I was looking at in front of the list just so I could understand what I was seeing.
That's why you are a star and I'm just a lowly tech writer. I mean, I admit it, right? Yeah, and obviously we'll show you a few fancier little output things here in a minute. You can get as fancy as you want with this stuff. Okay, what I'm going to do now is, I came pre-prepared in case I screwed everything up. I'm just going to take this and copy it and paste it into our other one so I don't have to keep changing the word X. What we got now is,
You lost your
I lost my stir computer. I had mentioned that you can get more, obviously, than just the name. And so this is just a script that gets a few additional properties: the process ID, page faults, handle count. So a few little things, just so if anybody thinks we're pulling a fast one on them, we're not. So there are a bunch of additional process information, and that's kind of cool, right? And again, like I said, we'll run this little script here. Oops, that's not what I want to do. I want to just copy the name of it. This is just to show you, here's an example of how we can get a little bit fancier output. So a little bit nicer, right? We got it in a nice little table now. Same information. And the good thing about that, again, is, right, if we look at the code here, there's nothing to it, right? It's not any harder than what we did before. There's some junk up here, right? Simply because we have to set up, our little table for the formatting. But you can see, right, what do we got, right? 15 lines of code or something like that. It's not hard, right? If it was hard, I wouldn't do it. Trust me, right? And then this is just one that kind of threw together just to give you another example of things. So if you've used the system information utility, right, so here's a bunch of information you can get. This is a real nice utility. It tends to, of course, give you information about your local machine. If you want information about multiple machines, this is probably not really the tool to use. But we can write a script that will give you that same kind of information. And we threw it into an Excel spreadsheet just to show you, right? You want fancy output that looks good? Well, it's not the fanciest output in the world, but not too bad considering what we did.
And this would give you a report you can easily print out then and
sure,
give
right?
your boss and say, look at how much hard work I've been doing. I researched each one of those pieces of information, had to go to each one of those machines manually, write that stuff down, and wrote this Excel spreadsheet for you.
Yes, and based on the bosses that I've had, you can get away with that too. Yeah, so, but the nice thing is, right, maybe I want to do this because I want to store all this stuff in a database or something. Well, that's fine. That's easy, right? So and here you see, right, I mean, it's the same stuff, it's the exact same stuff you saw in the sysinfo, right? You know, here you go. Which one's which? Can't even tell, right? It's amazing. Okay. Don't need to save that. I want to show you just a couple other little things because we've focused now on the information gathering part of this, which is good, right? That's incredibly useful. And to be fair, right, most of the things you do are read-only, right? If I have a 10 gigabyte hard disk, I can't somehow write a script or do something that makes it bigger than that, right? All I can do is get information about it, right? The amount of memory in the machine is what it is. I can't do anything about it. But there are a few things that we can do. And so this is an example of a script. Oops. Now I'm all messed up here. Here we go. What this is going to do is we're getting process information again. Now you notice this time we did use one of our little additions to the WQL language. So we put a where clause in there that says where the name of the process is equal to Notepad. So the only thing we're going to deal with here is Notepad. If any other processes are going to go unchanged, right? We could do stuff, right, you know, where the handle count is greater than a certain number, right? Where the number of page faults is less than. Anything that has to do with a process, we could put in our little where clause. Okay? And what we're going to do then is for every instance of Notepad we find running on the machine, we're just going to terminate it. So this is a method, and what its job is to kill Notepad. Okay? That'd be a good job to have, wouldn't it? So we got, try to make this window a little smaller here so we can see. So we got a couple instances of Notepad running in the background here. And if we go, I guess we don't really have to do this, but that's all right. Do that, right? They're gone, just like that, right? We can terminate processes. We can create processes. We can start services, stop services. We can change, you know, the service properties. So I don't want this to be a manual startup service. I want it to be an automatic startup service. There are a lot of things that we can do in addition to just getting information. Another one, very powerful capability is this monitoring capability within WMI. So anything that's within that WMI knows about, right? You can get information when something changes with that thing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to work with processes again, okay? And what this script is going to do is it's going to sit there and notify us anytime a process gets created or deleted. Okay, so just a little monitor lets us know what's going on the computer. Okay? And so, show you how this works. Oops, Control C. So here we go. There we go, pretty exciting so far, as you can tell. Right, now theoretically, if I start a process, right, I should get a little note down here that tells me Notepad started, right? There's the free cell game, which again, I don't know how that got on my machine, but somehow it did. And, whoops. I seem to have frozen up here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I seem to have died. Okay. I don't know what happened there. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Something weird is going on here. So it's actually working. It's just not working very quickly. Anyway, that's the idea.
Text selected, and so it was setting the command prompt in a different mode.
That could be. I have no idea. Anyway, the idea is, right, try it again and see if something pops up. How about paint? Yeah, there it is. So one of the many mysteries of computing life, I guess. The idea, though, is that I can keep track of things that happen, right? If I want to be notified, for example, man, you know, we're really concerned about something. If this particular event gets written to the event log, I need to know about it immediately. That's fine, right? I can set this, you know, a script like this, right? If you know, on my Exchange server, if disk space ever falls below this amount, I need to know about it right away because that means trouble's on the way, right? I can have a script that will do this. And all we're doing here is echoing information back to the command window, but I could have it send me an email. I could have it page me, right? I could have anything I want, any kind of notification I want. Okay, I'll just kill that. Okay, and then just, again, I just had another one to throw on here just to show you, again, some of the fancier things you can do. This is a free drive space thing. So it's just looking at my computer, and, you know, drive C has this much free drive space. You know, drive D, and the CD-ROM drive, nothing.
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 So essentially what you did there is you took and you interrogated the system and found out what the system was, brought that data into Excel, and then you drove Excel and told it to create a chart off of that data.
And again, right, you can see this is the entire script here, right? There's not that much to it. Here's our WMI code right here, right? And all we're doing is getting the free space and the name of the drive. Then down here, this is the stuff that creates the chart in Excel, right? There's nothing to it. It really is easy. And again, some of this stuff, it looks a little like, well, yeah, it's easier for you guys. But we have stuff in the Script Center that tells people how to do this, right? You want to do really weird stuff? I threw this one on here just because this would be one that I would think you would never do. But it gives you an idea of some of the crazy stuff you can do. So this is actually creating a PowerPoint presentation of all of the processes that are running on my machine. Right? There's the name of the processor, there's working set, size, priority, right? You would probably never do this in particular, but you can, and the reason you can is because PowerPoint is fully scriptable, just like everything else, right? It's just a COM object like everything else. And that's where we stand.
Well, I think it's pretty fabulous. I mean, it shows the exciting capabilities that WMI has to allow you to quickly and easily get access to information, control things, operate things, interoperate with things. We didn't see any email and paging, but you know, you said you could do that.
We could do that, yeah. Email's easy. I didn't know whether we would have web internet access or not here, so we didn't do that.
We're the .NET show.
Well, I know.
Okay.
I should have known better, right? But I didn't. I think the other thing that's really nice is now I've kind of lost my train of thought here. I guess nothing else is really nice. I am totally spaced out now.
So now, and each one of those things are the types of things that people actually would be doing, except maybe the PowerPoint one, and are regularly doing to monitor their systems, either their local system or some remote system that they happen to have admin capabilities to.
Yes, yeah. And typically what happens, and this is actually what I was thinking of, right, is that you do this because the tools that we give you just aren't quite right. You know, so Microsoft has kind of this notion that, you know, we try to satisfy 80% of the cases, which is good. But on the other hand, that does leave 20%, right? And lots of times the tools in the operating system are good, but, you know, I really would like it to save this data, you know, to a database, but you can't get task list to save data to a database, right?
You haven't seen that little Save to Database button in the task list manager. Task manager.
Well, you know, we were having trouble with the screen resolution here, so maybe I just missed it. Yeah. You know, people, we get questions sometimes that are just, whoa, I don't even know what you're talking about, right? But for that particular person, this is an important issue, right? It's very idiosyncratic. There's really no way for him to do this other than trying to write his own tool to take care of it. And, you know, scripting is not the only answer, right? You can go to a .NET language and do that. But for most people, scripting is going to be fastest, easiest, cheapest way of at least getting started, right? And you know, we do know that there are people who start with this and then they get pretty good at it. And then they start to realize there are some limitations. Scripting is not as powerful as a full-fledged programming language. But now they understand the basics. They understand what a for each loop is. They understand what an if-then thing is supposed to do. They understand what COM is and how they interact with COM objects. And for them, the transition to a more powerful programming language is actually fairly easy.
And plus, also, from the other standpoint, if you are a regular full-blown programmer and you're seeing something like this, you might say, hey, you know, I never really thought about interacting at that level. I can use WMI scripting to very quickly whip out some code to generate a PowerPoint presentation of all my running processes.
Sure. Yeah.
Sometimes
it's very useful for testers too. Testers use it a lot.
testers would use it a lot. They would, yeah.
Yeah, because repetitive things that have to happen all the time.
Yep, yep, exactly. Well, I mean, I enjoyed the time we spent to take a look at WMI scripting, see the scripting center and the wonderful articles you guys are both writing on that system. The Q&A columns, the little samples you got here. If our audience has any issues or questions about scripting, they go to the scripting center.
Yep.
And I saw a link there for scripter@microsoft.com, and they just send you guys email and ask those questions.
Yeah. And, put that up there. Blow it up a little bit. There we go. We're putting this up there like we really want to get mail from everybody.
That's right.
Actually, we do. I will say we cannot answer all the letters we get, but we do read every single email that we get. So we know what things are bothering people. We know what things they don't understand. We do answer some letters. We try. It's hard, right? It's
And
the two of us.
those you don't answer, you reflect within the articles you're writing on the scripting
We
center.
definitely
Try
try.
to.
Yeah.
And you never know, right? It's like the lottery. You never know.
Yeah.
You might get lucky.
Yeah.
But
The next Ask the Scripting guy might be your question that you wrote in.
it could be.
Could be.
Yes, it could
Okay.
be. It won't be, but it could be. Right? We got such a backlog now. It's like sometime in the year 2012, it could be.
Well, thanks for joining us.
We appreciate it. It was fun.
So hopefully that gave you some insights as to what WMI scripting is and how you might possibly be able to use it in your system or in your system infrastructure for solving some of the problems you might have, monitoring systems, or providing reports for your boss so they can see how much hard work you're doing, checking out all these computer systems and maybe get a pay raise. So thanks for joining us.
With me today is Hans Bjordahl. He is a group manager at MSNBC, and previously to that, he worked 5 years on the Outlook team. Hans, welcome.
Thanks.
So I hear you just started a new job at MSNBC.
Yes, 3 weeks ago, in fact. Yeah,
Okay.
very recently.
That's great. So what are you doing there now?
I'm a group manager at MSNBC.com. I've only been there about 3 weeks, but have a small team of technology people who are building out strategic features on the site so that we can deliver the best news experience we can online. It's a very exciting place to be. I'm a journalism graduate, so for me to be on the cutting edge of what's happening in news is hugely exciting. So I'm really happy to be there.
So you're getting back to your roots.
Yes, exactly, very much.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so previously to this, you worked on the Outlook team.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you do there?
So I was a program manager on the Outlook team for nearly 5 years. And as a program manager, you're kind of the CEO of a feature or a set of features. And over time, my unofficial title at Outlook became the calendar guy.
Okay.
And I became the Outlook calendar guy. And so there's a lot to be done with that. And in the release that's going to come out later this year, there's a major calendar investment that the public will see, where we really took the whole model of how the calendar worked and its reach and its ability to consume internet calendars and things of that nature, and we really evolved it fairly dramatically. So having done that, I was really happy with the progress there. But when the MSNBC opportunity came up, it was such a good fit for my curious dual background in technology and journalism that I just had to leap at it.
Sure.
So yeah.
So what are some of the biggest differences you can see going from a product team to a web team?
Certainly release cycle and speed of release is the thing that sticks out the most. So, a release cycle in Office historically has been on the order of 2 to 3 years. And I came to Office from the web where, we built, I worked at a .com where we built sites always with too little time, to do it, for companies like WholeFoods.com and FranklinCovey.com. So for me, going into a Win32 software world like Office, where a long release cycle like that was an adjustment, and a significant learning curve. Now I'm back in web time where, I may be most comfortable, doing things fast. And once we ship things, the ability to react quickly and correct them or optimize them and really move fast. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's great. It seems like a really fun world to be in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a very strong team. It's a very energetic team. It's very much a team that's sort of on a mission, and I'm feeding off the energy there. But then I've been there 3 weeks, so I'm certainly in the honeymoon phase.
Well, and it's about the news, so it's immediate, and it's current events, and you get that buzz as well.
Yeah, and journalism, I've always viewed it as history live. Like you're there, and so I very much feel like in the loop, in terms of, all the news that's coming in and how you put it all together. And when you look at MSNBC, there's an amazing opportunity there. It's a joint venture between NBC and Microsoft. So you have all the broadcast journalism assets on the NBC side and sort of that journalistic sensibility. You also have sort of a dedicated team of journalists who are excellent at MSNBC.com working on things. And then all the Microsoft technologies, you put all those ingredients together and what can't you do? So
That's
I'm
true.
really happy.
Great. Well, good for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, some of our viewers may or may not recognize your name, but you are also the author behind the Bug Bash cartoon,
Right.
which shows weekly in the micro news, and it's also on the internet.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So tell us about how you started that and how you started drawing.
So Bug Bash, the way I described Bug Bash when I was pitching it to the micro news is that I have a bad cartooning habit. And I just can't seem to break it. So I did cartoons when I was a little kid. It was sort of it was sort of how I got into newspapers and journalism in the first place. And so, I had done a strip in college. I'd done one for the Denver Post. And upon coming to Microsoft, I just noticed a lot of opportunity for humor. And so I basically pitched the idea to the editor of the micro news and said, you're running Dilbert now. What if I could deliver a comic strip that was much more Microsoft specific? I did 8 samples, I sent them in, and the micro news was like, oh, let's try it. And, for the first couple of weeks, it was like, where's Dilbert? You killed you killed Dilbert. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kill Dilbert, but he's in every other paper in America, so you could get it there. And over time, it's kind of found its footing and become really popular. So
That's true. And so obviously you get your inspiration from the work environment.
Yes.
Are some of them real specific examples or just more your imagination?
It's sort of both, really. Some are ideas that, just kind of come to you and you're like, oh, this would sort of apply to this situation. But other times it's very specific where you're sitting in a meeting and something funny happens and I have a little notebook I write stuff down in and I write it down on the sly and then, 4 weeks later someone's like, I didn't think that'd show up in your comic strip, but
Thanks
it
a
did.
lot.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So, sometimes some jokes at a new program manager's expense,
Right.
and sometimes people email me ideas that are
Oh.
pretty good, and, some of them are off the wall, but some of them are like, are
Yeah.
laugh out loud funny in the email. And every once in a while I'll use that as inspiration for what goes on in the strip.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find it hard with a full-time job to meet that deadline every week to do the cartoon?
Sometimes, it depends. Sometimes I'm on a roll and I can crank them out and get way ahead. Now would be a great example of a time where I'm riding the ragged edge of disaster with my deadline. The last comic Micro News has ran today, and this weekend I have to go do probably 3 more to get 3 weeks ahead because I'm in a transition between jobs, and that's
Right.
taking some time. And
Right.
so, yes, this is a good weekend to bring that up.
Maybe you
because
can
this is-
do one about doing a webcast.
Right, maybe I could do that. I do one
Have
about
some
the .NET
inspiration.
show. Yeah.
That'd be great. So I read that one of your older cartoons it's called the first internet comic. Tell us about that.
So a comic I did in college called Where the Buffalo Roam, which was, I went to the University of Colorado at Boulder and ran it in the local student daily. I'd run it for a few years there, and some friends I knew were starting a networking firm. And this was 91, right about then. And they came to me and they said, we like your comic. We'd like to put it on this thing called Usenet. The internet was really just emerging at the time. And so I basically scanned a few, gave them to them, and they posted them on Usenet before the web was even in any kind of widespread adoption. And 2 weeks later, I went down and answered fan mail from Australia. So this is odd, it was one of those moments where you're on the leading edge of something and there's instant recognition that it's going to be big, what was going on with the internet even then. And so that ran on a Usenet for many years before, of course it became a website and off it went. And there have been other comics that were early adopters on the web, but, we've sort of, Where the Buffalo Roam has gained a reputation as the first comic ever on the internet. Seems to have held up as such. No one's challenged that assertion.
Sure.
So I presume it's true.
That's
So,
great.
Yeah.
So tell us about some other things you're involved on the web.
On the web, so I've always been kind of I guess I have a bad web habit too. I've always kind of been really interested in the power of this new medium, to deliver like media content online. And so one of the things I did early on was, for this .com I work for was found an online magazine, and one of the features that came out of that was actually a website called Mr. Cranky. And Mr. Cranky was meant to be an alternate movie reviewer who he hates everything. So Mr. Cranky rates things on a 1 bomb to 4 bomb scale. The best a movie can ever do is 1 bomb. In a way, it's meant to sort of deflate, the value of the critic, to sort of make fun of that because Mr. Cranky's so predictable. But it was sort of founded in a recognition that the most entertaining movie reviews are the ones where the reviewer just takes off the gloves and just goes after the film. And we're like, if we could do that every time, maybe we could build an audience. And we have. A good example, Mr. Cranky's actually broken into mainstream media. The Chicago Tribune has an alternative daily called Red Eye, for example. And Mr. Cranky is their movie critic. So we ship a review to the Chicago Tribune every week for use in their sort of alternative publication targeted at a younger demographic. And so, that sort of found its way back to news and journalism in a way as well. So
so that as your aim, you're focused on finding the worst movies out there?
No, we review everything.
Okay, so even something you love is a single bomb.
Yeah. Mr. Cranky, he hated Citizen Kane. He hated everything. And it's not just me, it's actually sort of a small team of people.
Okay, so you find fault in anything.
Yeah, I'm just like the co-founder, and we built a small team that keeps it going because it's not to the point where anyone's able to quit their day job, So,
That's great. Well, Hans, you are truly a jack of all trades and very busy.
Yeah, I gotta fix that. It's kind of a problem.
Well, thanks for taking time to join me today. It's been fun.
Great, thanks a lot.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of the .NET Show.
And stay tuned for the next episode on IIS 7.
And before we go, I want to remind you to make sure you rate this episode to tell us how well you liked it. And until then, we'll see you on the web.